Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Meridian and watched the alien world grow larger on the main screen. The planet looked like a giant blue crystal floating in space. Its surface sparkled with cities made of what looked like pure light. He had seen many strange worlds in his years as a space commander, but nothing quite like this one. The Catherian Empire had sent them an invitation 3 months ago. It was the first time these aliens had ever contacted humans. Their message was simple but urgent. They wanted to meet and talk about important matters that could affect both their peoples. Jake knew this mission could change everything for humanity. Ambassador Lisa Carter walked up beside him. She looked nervous but excited. Lisa had been chosen for this mission because she was the best at talking to new alien races. She had helped make peace with the Vortians and had even convinced the warlike Draconis to become trading partners. "Are you ready for this, Jake?" Lisa asked, while looking at the planet below. Jake nodded, as ready as anyone can be for first contact with a dying empire. The reports they had received were troubling. The Catherians were one of the oldest and most powerful races in this part of the galaxy. They had ruled over 12 star systems for thousands of years. But something was wrong. Their population was falling fast. Some experts believed they might all be gone within 50 years. Dr. Alex Parker joined them at the observation window. He was their best scientist for studying alien life forms. Alex had spent weeks reading every piece of information they had about the Catherians. His job was to help them understand how these aliens lived and what they needed to survive. "Their biology is fascinating," Alex said, while checking his datapad. "They seem to get energy from light, just like plants do, but they also eat regular food, like we do. The combination makes them very strong and long-lived, or at least it used to." Maria Santos was the 4th member of their team. She studied alien cultures and languages. Maria had been working day and night to learn Catherian customs and their way of speaking. She warned them that these aliens valued honor and tradition above almost everything else. The Meridian received permission to land at the main city. Jake could see the Imperial Palace from orbit. It was a massive structure that seemed to be carved from a single giant crystal. Towers reached up into the clouds and the whole building glowed with soft blue light. When they landed, Catherian guards met them at the ship. The aliens were tall and elegant. Their skin looked like it was made of living crystal that changed colors based on their emotions. The guards wore simple robes, but carried weapons that hummed with energy. Jake and his team were escorted through the city streets. Everything was beautiful, but felt empty. There should have been crowds of people, but Jake only saw a few Catherians walking around. The buildings were maintained perfectly, but many seemed to have no one living in them. The palace was even more impressive up close. The walls were transparent crystal that showed the sky and stars even during the day. Inside, the floors were polished smooth and seemed to glow from within. Everything was designed to let in as much light as possible. They were brought to a great hall where Empress Zarathol waited for them. She was the most beautiful being Jake had ever seen. Her crystal skin shifted from deep blue to silver as she watched them approach. She was tall and graceful, but Jake could see sadness in her large dark eyes. Beside the Empress stood a small figure. This was Princess Naivo, the last child born to the royal family. She looked to be about 8 years, old in human terms. Her skin was lighter than her mother's, more like clear glass with hints of blue and green. She watched the humans with curious eyes, but stayed close to her mother. "Welcome to Cathera Prime," the Empress said. Her voice was like music, with tones that seemed to ring in the air. "I am Zarathol, last adult of the royal bloodline. This is my daughter Naivo, who may be the last of our kind." Lisa stepped forward and bowed in the way Maria had taught them. "Your Majesty, we are honored by your invitation. I am Ambassador Lisa Carter. This is Commander Jake Morrison, Dr. Alex Parker, and Cultural Specialist Maria Santos. We hope to build friendship between our peoples." The Empress smiled, but it was a sad smile. I hope so too, Ambassador Carter. But I fear we have little time left for friendship. Our race is dying. We have tried everything our science knows, but nothing works. Our children are born weak and die young. Soon there will be no more Catharians. Dr. Parker spoke up carefully. Your Majesty, perhaps our medical knowledge could help. Humans have dealt with genetic problems before. We might be able to find solutions your people have not considered. Perhaps the Empress replied. But that is not why I asked you here today. There is an ancient law in our empire. When the royal bloodline faces extinction, the crown may invoke the decree of guardianship. I can choose someone from any race to become parent and protector to my heir. Jake felt his stomach drop. He had a bad feeling about where this was going. The Empress continued, I have studied your people, Commander Morrison. Humans are survivors. You adapt to any situation. You love fiercely and protect your young at all costs. Your race has overcome extinction events before and grown stronger. She walked over to Jake and looked directly into his eyes. By the ancient laws of my people and the power of the crown, I choose you, Jake Morrison of Earth, to become father and guardian to Princess Naivel. Will you accept this sacred duty? The hall fell silent. Jake could hear his heart beating in his ears. He looked at the little princess, who was watching him with wide, hopeful eyes. He thought about his crew, about humanity, about the weight of an entire civilization resting on his shoulders. I accept, Jake said quietly. The first week was the hardest of Jake's life. Princess Naivel barely spoke to him. When she did talk, it was in the musical Catharian language that hurt his ears when he tried to copy it. She spent most of her time sitting by the great windows, staring out at the crystal gardens below. Jake had been given rooms next to hers in the palace. The Catharians had tried to make the space comfortable for a human, but everything felt wrong. The furniture was too tall and made of crystal that was beautiful but cold to touch. The bed was hard, and the lights never seemed to turn completely off. She misses her mother, Maria explained, on the third day. Empress Zarathal died just 2 days after the ceremony. The princess is grieving, and she probably blames you for taking her mother's place. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept well since accepting the guardianship. How am I supposed to take care of a child I can't even talk to? She won't eat the food I bring her. She won't let me near her when she's upset. Yesterday she started glowing so bright I thought she was sick. Dr. Parker looked up from his research notes. The glowing is normal. It's how her people show strong emotions. But I'm worried about her health. She needs specific types of light to stay strong. The palace windows help, but she's not getting outside enough. Lisa had been working with the Catharian Council to understand the political situation. Many of the nobles were not happy about a human raising their future ruler. Some believed it was a mistake that would destroy their culture forever. Admiral Thancor supports you, Lisa told Jake. He was Empress Zarathal's closest advisor. But General Korvik and his followers think the princess should be raised by Catharian families. They're making trouble in the outer colonies. Jake barely heard her. All he could think about was the sad little girl who wouldn't let him help her. That morning he had found her crying in her room. When he tried to comfort her, she had run away from him. Her skin had turned dark red, which Maria said meant fear and anger. Maybe they're right, Jake said quietly. Maybe a human can't raise a Catharian child. What do I know about being a father anyway? I've spent my whole life in space, commanding ships and fighting battles. You accepted the responsibility, Maria reminded him gently. The Empress chose you for a reason. She saw something in you that made her believe you could do this. That evening, Jake decided to try a different approach. Instead of bringing her dinner, he sat outside her door and ate his own meal there. He didn't try to talk to her or go inside. He just wanted her to know he was nearby if she needed him. After an hour, he heard movement inside the room. The door opened slightly, and one large eye peeked out at him. Jake smiled and held up a piece of fruit from his tray. "Hungry?" he asked, in his broken Cytherian. Naivil stepped out slowly. She looked at the fruit, and then at Jake. Her skin was pale blue, which Maria had told him meant uncertainty. She took the fruit and sat down across from him in the hallway. They ate together in silence. When they were done, Jake started humming an old Earth song his mother used to sing to him. It was a simple tune about stars and dreams. Naivil tilted her head and listened. Her skin began to shift to a warmer green color. From that night on, things got a little easier. Naivil started joining Jake for meals, though she still didn't talk much. She seemed to like his humming and would sometimes ask him to sing by, pointing at his mouth and making musical sounds. Dr. Parker made an important discovery in the second week. He found that Naivil's people needed sunlight to help their bodies make important nutrients. The princess had been getting sick because she was spending too much time indoors. "She needs at least 4 hours of direct sunlight every day," Alex explained. "But not just any light. It has to be natural sunlight from a star. The artificial lights in the palace aren't enough." Jake started taking Naivil outside to the crystal gardens every morning. At first she was nervous about leaving the palace, but soon she began to enjoy their walks. She would run ahead of him and then wait for him to catch up. Her skin would glow bright yellow when she was happy, and Jake learned to love seeing that color. The real breakthrough came in the third week. Naivil woke up in the middle of the night screaming. Jake rushed to her room and found her burning with fever. Her skin was flashing between different colors so fast it looked like a light show. "Get Dr. Parker," Jake shouted to the guards. But when Alex arrived, he shook his head sadly. "This is the same sickness that killed her mother and so many other Cytherians," Alex said. "Their own doctors say there's no cure. Their immune systems just can't fight it anymore." Jake refused to accept that. He stayed with Naivil all night, cooling her forehead with wet cloths and holding her hand. When she was delirious with fever, she called out for her mother in Cytherian. Jake's heart broke, hearing her pain. "I'm here, little star," he whispered, using a nickname that had come to him naturally. "Papa Jake is here." In desperation, Jake remembered something from his military medical training. Sometimes when human children had high fevers, doctors would use ice baths to cool them down quickly. It was dangerous, but Naivil was dying anyway. Against Dr. Parker's advice, Jake carried the burning child to the bathroom and filled the crystal tub with cold water. Naivil screamed when he put her in, but her fever began to drop. He held her in the water, singing earth lullabies, until she fell asleep in his arms. The fever broke just before dawn. Naivil opened her eyes and looked up at Jake. For the first time since he had met her, she smiled. "Papa Jake," she said in clear English, her voice weak but happy. From that day forward, everything changed. Naivil began following Jake everywhere. She learned English words quickly and taught him Cytherian phrases. She showed him how to read her skin colors and what different glowing patterns meant. Dr. Parker was amazed by her recovery. "No Cytherian has ever survived that fever before," he told Jake. "Somehow your human medical knowledge saved her life. You proved that sometimes an outsider's way of thinking is exactly what's needed." The Cytherian nobles who had doubted Jake began to change their minds. Admiral Thancor visited them often and was impressed by how well Naivil was doing. Even some of General Korvik's supporters started to wonder if maybe the Empress had been right after all. Jake was learning too. He discovered that Naivil was incredibly smart and curious about everything. She asked endless questions about Earth and humans. She wanted to know about Jake's childhood, about human families, and about why humans liked to explore space. "Do all human fathers sing to their children?" she asked one evening as they watched the sunset from her balcony. "Many do," Jake replied. "It's one way we show love." Naivil was quiet for a moment. Then she started humming one of the Earth songs Jake had taught her, but she added Catherian musical tones to it. The result was beautiful and unlike anything either of their races had ever created. "I love you too, Papa Jake," she said, her skin glowing warm gold in the evening light. 6 months had passed since Jake became Naivel's father. The palace felt like home now, and the little princess had grown stronger and happier than anyone had expected. She could speak both English and Catherian perfectly, switching between them when she got excited. Her favorite game was teaching Jake new words, while he taught her about earth animals and plants. "Papa Jake, look what I can do," Nynaeve called out one morning in the crystal gardens. She pressed her hand against one of the great crystal trees, and her skin began to glow. The tree responded by lighting up with the same pattern. All around them, other crystal structures began to pulse with matching light. Dr. Parker watched in amazement. "She's interfacing with the palace systems directly. No Catherian has been able to do that for generations. It's like she's developed new abilities." Jake felt proud but also worried. Nynaeve was special in ways that were hard to understand. Her mixed upbringing seemed to be unlocking powers that even her own people had forgotten about. That afternoon, their peaceful life was shattered. Admiral Thancor burst into Jake's quarters with urgent news. His usually calm crystal skin was flashing dark orange, which meant serious danger. "Commander Morrison, you and the princess must leave immediately," Thancor said. "General Korvik has taken control of 3 outer colonies. He's demanding that Princess Nynaeve be turned over to him for proper Catherian education." Lisa Carter was right behind him. "It's worse than that, Jake. Our intelligence says Korvik doesn't really care about education. He wants to use Nynaeve as a puppet ruler. If he controls her, he controls the entire empire." Jake felt his blood run cold. "Where is she now?" "In her study room with Maria," Thancor replied. "But Korvik's ships will be here within hours. We need to get you both to safety." Jake's military training kicked in. "What about loyal forces? How many ships do we have?" "Not enough," Thancor admitted. "Korvik has convinced many that a human should not raise our future empress. Fear makes people do foolish things." They made plans quickly. The Meridian was still docked at the palace spaceport. Jake's crew had been upgraded with Catherian technology over the past months. If they moved fast, they could escape before Korvik arrived. But when Jake went to get Nynaeve, she refused to leave. "This is my home," she said stubbornly, her skin turning the deep blue that meant determination. "My mother died here. I won't run away from people who want to hurt my family." Jake knelt down to her level. "Little star, sometimes the bravest thing is to leave so you can come back stronger later. We're not running away forever. We're making sure you stay safe so you can grow up to be the leader your people need." Nynaeve looked at him with her large, wise eyes. "Will you stay with me?" "Always," Jake promised. They gathered what they could carry and headed for the space. Maria had packed important cultural items, and Dr. Parker grabbed his research on Catherian biology. Lisa carried diplomatic documents that might help them find allies. Just as they reached the Meridian, alarms began sounding throughout the city. Korvik's ships had arrived early. Jake could see the dark vessels descending through the atmosphere like angry storm clouds. "Get us out of here," Jake ordered his pilot, Lieutenant Ben Foster. Ben was young but skilled, and he had learned to work with the upgraded Catherian navigation systems. The Meridian lifted off, just as enemy fighters began patrolling the city. They flew low through the crystal canyons, using the natural formations to hide from sensors. Nynaeve sat in the co-pilot seat, her small hands pressed against the ship's control panels. "The ship feels different," she said with wonder. "I can hear its thoughts." Jake realized she was interfacing with their computer systems just like she had with the palace crystals. "Can you help us get past their patrols?" Nynaeve closed her eyes and concentrated. Suddenly the ship's stealth systems activated in ways that surprised even Ben. They became almost invisible to enemy scanners. "How is she doing that?" Ben whispered. I don't know, Jake replied, but don't question it. They escaped into space and set course for the neutral moon of Volter. Admiral Thancor had arranged a safe house there where they could plan their next moves. But the journey would take 2 days, and Jake knew Korvik would be hunting them. During the flight, Naivel became quiet and sad. She missed her home and was scared about what was happening to her people. Jake spent hours with her, reading stories and singing songs to keep her spirits up. Why do they hate me, Papa Jake? She asked one evening as they watched the stars. Jake chose his words carefully. They don't hate you, little star. They're afraid. When people are scared, they sometimes make bad choices. General Korvik has made them believe that being different is dangerous. But you're different, and you're not dangerous. Jake smiled. Thank you for seeing that. Not everyone does. On the second day, long-range sensors detected ships following them. Korvik had found their trail and was gaining fast. His ships were newer and faster than the Meridian. We can't outrun them, Ben reported. They'll catch us before we reach Volter. Jake made a hard decision. Take us into the asteroid field near the dead system. We'll hide there and try to lose them. Flying through asteroids was dangerous even with the best pilots. The rocks tumbled and spun unpredictably, and one collision could destroy a ship. But it was their only chance. As they entered the field, Korvik's ships followed. Jake could see them on the scanner, 3 heavy cruisers and a dozen fighters. They had enough firepower to destroy the Meridian easily. Papa Jake, let me help, Naivel said. She had been watching the chase with growing anger. Her skin was turning dark red with flashes of silver. It's too dangerous, little star. Please, I can do things you don't understand yet. Jake looked into her determined eyes and made another hard choice. Okay, but stay connected to me. If I say stop, you stop immediately. Naivel placed her hands on the main control panel. Her skin began to glow brighter than Jake had ever seen. Throughout the ship, systems activated that shouldn't have been possible with their current technology. The Meridian began moving through the asteroids like it was dancing. Naivel seemed to know where every rock would be before it got there. She guided them through passages so narrow that Jake held his breath, but they never hit anything. Behind them, Korvik's ships tried to follow but couldn't match their impossible maneuvers. 2 fighters crashed into asteroids. One cruiser was forced to turn back when it scraped against a rock and lost shields. Impossible. General Korvik's voice came over the communication channels. No ship can fly like that. Jake opened a channel back. General, you're chasing a child and her family. Is this really how you want to be remembered? That child belongs to the Catherian people, Korvik replied angrily. Not to some alien who knows nothing of our ways. Naivel took the communication device from Jake. When she spoke, her voice carried the musical authority of her royal bloodline. General Korvik, I am Princess Naivel, daughter of Empress Zerathal and heir to the Crystal Throne. You will cease this pursuit immediately. You are a child, being poisoned by alien ideas, Korvik responded. I am exactly who my mother wanted me to become, Naivel said firmly. Papa Jake has taught me that strength comes from love, not fear. He has shown me that different doesn't mean wrong. When I am Empress, I will remember who protected me and who threatened me. There was a long silence on the channel. Finally, Korvik spoke again, his voice less certain. This is not over, Princess. The enemy ships turned and headed back toward Catherian space. Jake looked at his daughter with new respect and a little fear. She was growing into someone powerful, and he hoped he was raising her to use that power wisely. 4 years had passed since their escape from Kithra Prime. Naivel was now 12 years old and stood as tall as Jake's shoulder. Her crystal skin had developed deeper colors and patterns that changed with her moods and thoughts. She had grown into a confident young woman who could command both human technology and Catherian crystal systems with equal skill. They had made their home on the neutral space station New Harmony, where refugees from many worlds lived together. Jake had used his diplomatic connections to create a small government in exile, supported by Admiral Thankor and other loyal Catherians who had escaped Korvik's rule. Papa Jake, the Imperial Council has sent a message, Naivil announced as she entered their quarters. Her skin was glowing with excitement, shifting between gold and silver. They want me to return for my coming-of-age trials. Jake looked up from the reports he was reading. The situation in Catherian space had grown worse over the years. Korvik ruled with an iron fist, but his harsh policies were driving more colonies to rebellion. Many Catherians were beginning to wonder if their old empress had been right about needing change. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Jake asked. The trials were designed for Catherians raised in the traditional way. You've learned different things, different values. Naivil sat down beside him, her expression serious. That's exactly why I need to take them. I have to prove that my education with you hasn't made me weak or unfit to rule. If I fail, Korvik wins and our people will never accept change. Dr. Parker entered with Maria Santos. Both had become like family over the years, helping to raise and educate Naivil. Alex had continued his research into Catherian biology, while Maria had taught her about the complex history and culture of her people. The trials consist of 3 tests, Maria explained. The test of wisdom requires her to solve complex problems facing the Empire. The test of courage puts her in physical and emotional danger. The test of heart examines her commitment to her people above herself. What worries me is the timing, Alex added. Korvik has agreed to let her take the trials, but I don't trust him. He might be planning something. Lisa Carter had been working with Admiral Thankor to arrange safe passage back to Kithra Prime. She joined their discussion with updates from her contacts in the Empire. Thankor says many nobles are curious about what kind of leader Naivil has become, Lisa reported. Some who supported Korvik are having doubts. The Empire is struggling without fresh ideas and new solutions. Jake felt proud and worried at the same time. Naivil had grown into a remarkable young woman, but the trials would test her in ways that no human parent could prepare her for. He had taught her human values like compassion, adaptability, and the importance of protecting the weak. He hoped these lessons would serve her well. The journey back to Kithora Prime took a week aboard Admiral Thankor's flagship. Jake watched Naivil during the trip, seeing how she interacted with the Kithorian crew. She spoke to them in their own language, asked about their families, and listened carefully to their concerns about the Empire's future. She has her mother's gift for inspiring loyalty, Thankor told Jake privately. But she also has something new. She sees possibilities that traditional Catherians cannot imagine. When they arrived at the Crystal World, Jake was shocked by how much it had changed. The beautiful cities looked darker and less vibrant than before. There were fewer people in the streets, and many buildings stood empty. Korvik's rule had brought order, but also fear and stagnation. The trials took place in the ancient Arena of Judgment, a massive crystal amphitheater that could hold thousands of spectators. Representatives from all the colony worlds had come to witness the princess's tests. General Korvik sat in the place of honor, his skin dark purple with satisfaction. The test of wisdom came first. Naivil was presented with 3 major problems facing the Empire: declining birth rates, economic troubles, and growing rebellion in the outer colonies. She had to propose solutions in front of the assembled nobles, and explain how she would implement them. Jake watched nervously as his daughter stood in the center of the arena. She looked so small, surrounded by the towering crystal walls, but her voice carried clearly as she began to speak. Honored nobles, these problems all have the same root, Naivil announced. Our people are dying because we refuse to change. We cling to old ways that no longer work and fear new ideas that might save us. She gestured to the mostly empty amphitheater. Look around you. Where are the crowds that should be here? Where are the children who should inherit this empire. They are gone because we chose tradition over survival. Her proposals shocked the audience. Instead of trying to preserve Cytherian purity, she suggested opening the empire to other races. She wanted to establish exchange programs where young Cytherians could learn from other cultures, while aliens came to study crystal technology. Our strength was never in being separate, she continued. It was in being willing to learn and grow. We built this empire by adapting to different worlds and different challenges. Now we must adapt again, or die. General Korvik stood up angrily. You speak like an alien, not a Cytherian princess. Naivel's skin flashed bright silver as she turned to face him. I speak like someone who wants her people to have a future, General. Your way has brought us to the edge of extinction. Perhaps it's time to try something new. The test of courage began the next day. Naivel had to navigate a dangerous maze filled with energy barriers and unstable crystal formations. But halfway through the test, alarms began sounding throughout the city. The outer colonies are under attack, a messenger reported to Korvik. Rebel ships are moving on the capital. Jake realized this was no coincidence. The rebels had timed their assault to happen during the trials. Now Naivel faced a real test of courage, not an artificial one. Let me help defend the city, she called out to the nobles in the arena. Impossible, Korvik replied. You are just a child taking tests. Naivel's eyes blazed with determination. I am the rightful heir to this throne, and these are my people. Under attack. I will not hide while they suffer. She ran from the arena toward the palace defense center. Jake and his team followed, along with Admiral Thancor and many younger nobles who were inspired by her courage in the command center. Naivel amazed everyone by interfacing directly with the planetary defense grid. Her unique abilities allowed her to coordinate the crystal shields and energy weapons in ways that the regular operators couldn't match. The rebel fleet is breaking through Sector 7, reported a technician. Naivel closed her eyes and extended her consciousness into the defense network. Not anymore, she said calmly. The screens showed enemy ships being disabled by precisely targeted energy beams. But she wasn't just defending against the rebels. As the battle continued, Jake realized she was trying to disable their ships without destroying them, to capture rather than kill her own people. Why aren't you firing to destroy? Korvik demanded. Because those are Cytherians fighting other Cytherians, Naivel replied without opening her eyes. This civil war has gone on long enough. It's time to bring our people home. When the last rebel ship was captured, Naivel opened a communication channel to their commanders. This is Princess Naivel. I know you're fighting because you believe. The Empire has lost its way, you're right, but destroying each other won't fix that. Come to the surface. Let's talk about building something better together. The test of heart came the next morning, but it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of the traditional ceremony, rebel leaders stood alongside imperial nobles in the arena. Naivel had convinced them to attend a grand assembly to discuss the future of their civilization. The real test of my heart is not whether I can follow old traditions, she announced to the mixed crowd. It's whether I can love all my people enough to change those traditions when they no longer serve us. She spoke about her vision for a new kind of empire, one that welcomed diversity and learned from other cultures. She talked about the strength she had gained from having a human father, and how that hadn't made her less Cytherian, but more than she could have been alone. General Korvik stood to object, but Admiral Thancor interrupted him. The princess has passed all 3 trials, Than declared. She has shown wisdom by proposing real solutions, courage by defending her people, and heart by choosing unity over division. I declare her fit to rule. The arena erupted in cheers from both rebels and loyalists. Naivel had done something unprecedented. She had not just passed the ancient trials, but had used them to heal the wounds in her civilization. That evening, as they prepared for her coronation ceremony, Jake found himself alone with his daughter for a moment. "Are you proud of me, Papa Jake?" she asked. "More than you'll ever know, little star," he replied. "But more importantly, I think your mother would be proud too." Naeval hugged him tightly. "I couldn't have done any of this without you. You taught me that being different is a strength, not a weakness. Tomorrow I become Empress, but you'll always be my father." The coronation of Empress Naeval was unlike any ceremony in Catharian history. Representatives from dozens of different alien races filled the crystal amphitheater, alongside Catharian nobles and former rebels. Jake stood in the place of honor, usually reserved for the royal family, wearing ceremonial robes that had been specially made to accommodate human physiology. "Today we crown not just a new empress, but a new era for our people," Admiral Thancor announced to the crowd. His skin glowed with joy and hope as he spoke. "Princess Naeval has shown us that strength comes from embracing change, not fearing it." Naeval looked magnificent in the traditional crystal crown that had been worn by Catharian rulers for thousands of years. But she had added something new to the ceremony. Instead of speaking only in ancient Catharian, she gave her coronation speech in both her native language and English, showing respect for both sides of her heritage. "My people, we stand at a crossroads," she began, her voice carrying clearly across the amphitheater. "We can continue down the path of isolation and slow extinction, or we can choose to grow and change and thrive. I choose life. I choose growth. I choose to lead us into a future where being Catharian means being part of something larger than ourselves." Jake felt tears running down his face as he watched his daughter transform from the scared little girl he had met years ago into a confident leader who commanded respect from beings across the galaxy. She announced the creation of the Catharian Federation, a new government structure that would welcome other species as partners rather than subjects. General Korvik, who had been silent during the ceremony, finally stood to speak. Jake tensed, wondering if the old soldier would cause trouble even now. "Your Majesty," Korvik said formally, his skin showing the deep purple of respect and submission. "I have been wrong about many things. I believed that keeping our blood pure would keep us strong. Instead, it was killing us slowly. You have shown me that sometimes the greatest act of love is to let go of the past and embrace an uncertain future." The crowd erupted in cheers as Korvik knelt before the new empress. Naeval stepped down from her throne and helped him to his feet, a gesture that symbolized the healing of old wounds. Over the following months, the changes came quickly. Young Catharians began traveling to other worlds to study and learn. Alien scientists and engineers came to Cathara Prime to work with crystal technology. The empty cities began to fill with life again as new families moved in and old ones grew. Larger. Jake found his role changing too. Officially, he was appointed as the first human ambassador to the Catharian Federation. But more importantly, he remained what he had always been to Naeval, her father and closest advisor. "Papa Jake, we've received a message from the Deltarian Republic," Naeval told him one morning as they shared breakfast in her private quarters. "Their population is declining just like ours was. They want to know if we would consider a guardian arrangement for their last royal heir." Jake smiled. "What do you think?" "I think we should say yes," she replied. "But not just to the Deltarians. I want to establish a formal program. The Guardian Decree should become a way for any dying civilization to find help from species who have learned how to adapt and survive." Dr. Parker and Maria Santos had become permanent residents of Cathara Prime, establishing the first interspecies research institute. Alex was working on medical treatments that combined human and Cathar knowledge to help other races facing genetic decline. Maria was writing guides for cross-cultural adoption and child-rearing. Lisa Carter had been promoted to head the new Department of Interspecies Relations. She traveled constantly between worlds, helping to arrange guardian partnerships and cultural exchanges. The work was challenging but rewarding as more and more civilizations reached out for help. It's amazing how it's spreading, Lisa reported during one of her visits home. The Andromedans want human families to help raise their gifted children. The Crystal Singers of Beta Prime are asking for Catharian guardians to teach their young about harmony and light. Everyone wants to learn from everyone else. Jake often found himself thinking about how much had changed since that first day, when he had reluctantly accepted responsibility for one alien child. Now humans across the galaxy were volunteering to become guardians and teachers. Other species were doing the same, creating a network of mutual support and learning. The most surprising development came 2 years after Naivel's coronation. She had fallen in love with Dr. Kevin Wright, a human xenobiologist who had come to study Catharian healing abilities. Their relationship caused some controversy among traditional nobles, but Naivel handled it with the same wisdom she brought to all her decisions. Love doesn't recognize species boundaries, she declared when they announced their engagement. If our empire is to be truly inclusive, it must start with the royal family. Their wedding was a celebration that lasted for 3 days and included traditions from dozens of different worlds. Jake walked Naivel down the aisle, proud beyond words of the woman she had become. When they exchanged vows, the entire planet seemed to glow with happiness. A year later, Jake became a grandfather. Little Emma was born with her mother's crystal skin, but her father's brown eyes. She was the first hybrid Catharian human child ever born, and her arrival sent ripples of excitement throughout the galaxy. "She's perfect," Jake whispered, as he held his granddaughter for the first time. Emma's skin was a soft pink color that shifted to gold when she was content. She seemed to recognize Jake's voice and settled peacefully in his arms. "She's going to grow up in a very different world than I did," Naivel said softly. "A world where being mixed heritage is seen as a gift, not a problem." Jake nodded. "Your mother would be so proud of what you've built here. This isn't just about saving the Catharian people anymore. You've created something entirely new." As the years passed, the Guardian Decree program continued to grow. Whole departments were established to match dying civilizations with potential guardian species. Training programs were created to help cross-species families succeed. Jake found himself teaching courses on interspecies parenting to beings from across the galaxy. The Catharian Federation became a model for other governments. Instead of ruling through conquest or fear, they led by example and invitation. Worlds that had been isolated for centuries began to open their borders and share their knowledge. Jake celebrated his 70th birthday surrounded by a family that spanned multiple species. Naivel had given him 3 grandchildren, each one unique and wonderful. Dr. Parker had married a Catharian scientist and adopted 2 orphan children from the outer colonies. Maria had become a grandmother figure to dozens of guardian families. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Lisa asked him during the party, when life was simpler and humans stayed with humans. Jake looked around at the celebration. Catharian children were playing with human kids and alien youngsters from a dozen different worlds. They were all laughing and running around together, creating their own games that mixed traditions from all their cultures. "Never," he said firmly. "This is what the future looks like. Messy and complicated, and absolutely beautiful." That evening, as the guests were leaving, Naivel found Jake sitting on the palace balcony, where they used to watch sunsets when she was small. "Thank you, Papa Jake," she said, as she sat beside him. "For what, little star?" "For saying yes all those years ago. For taking a chance on a scared alien child. For teaching me that family isn't about blood or species, but about the love we choose to share." Jake put his arm around his daughter and looked out at the city below. The crystal buildings glowed with warm light, and he could see families of all kinds walking together through the gardens. Ships from many worlds came and went from the spaceport, carrying guardians and children and hope to every corner of the galaxy. "I didn't save your people, Naivel," he said quietly. "You did that yourself. I just loved you the best way I knew how." "That was enough," she replied. That was everything. As they watched the stars come out, Jake realized that what had started as one man's reluctant acceptance of an impossible duty had become something much larger. The galaxy was full of children being raised by loving guardians from different worlds. Civilizations that had been dying were finding new life, and somewhere among those stars, other families were discovering what Jake had learned long ago, that love has no boundaries, hope has no limits, and the greatest legacy we can leave is teaching the next generation to be better than we ever dreamed possible.